Welcome to another week of The Inimitable Black Woman. I'm your host, Donna. If this is your first time here, I'm happy you're here. There's snacks in the back, so go to your fridge and get those. See? There are snacks in the back. If you're in your car, there's snacks at the house. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, I love you. Thank you for being here. I'm not going to take up too much of your time because we're going to just jump right into this interview. And it's a good one. Here we go. What is your name?
My name is Lanise Harris.
Lanise, where are you from?
I am a Florida native. I'm a little small, well, actually, it's not small anymore. It's a beach town. It's called St. Petersburg, Florida. It's the only peninsula on a peninsula. So it's completely under sea level. A little hippie town with a lot of crime for old people and everything.
A hippie town. You said a hippie town with a lot of crime and old people?
Yes.
Okay. How would you say your childhood was?
Interesting. So my mom died when I was 7. I have one older sister. So my dad raised us two. My dad's a retired police officer. So, and he's not like super, super strict or anything. But he is a Southern Black man. So, and I don't know if everyone feels this way, but just people I've come across, a lot of people don't consider Florida the South. But where my dad is from is where I-10 and 75 meet. So that's literally as like North Florida. And a lot of times anything on I-10 in the state of Florida is either Georgia or Alabama. So super, super Southern. So I say all of that to say, my dad raised us on his own. So he was braiding my hair, fixing our lunches, cooking dinners, baking. I played a lot of sports. My dad was always when it was his weekend to make the snacks for soccer. Everyone else was doing chips and candy and stuff. My dad was taking oranges from the back tree, like from our backyard, cutting them up himself. Like he just is, my dad's a very hands-on, very like, I know how to do everything. Just like a jack of all trades. You know, people say master of none. Like, no, he is masterful. Like he is really good at a lot of stuff. So I would say, given childhood, what I learned from him is to do things for myself, and just be really good at a lot of different things. So I remember just throughout childhood being very like active, always having something to do, always just kind of just always just hustling, bustling. And when we weren't playing soccer or softball, or I didn't have volleyball practice or anything like that, he was knocking on my door at 7 a.m, telling my sister and I to wake up so we can cut the grass. So we have been, he is just one of those guys. I think he wanted a boy, and I think he treats me like that sometimes, but he says he doesn't.
Oh my God, that's funny. So what is the most boyish thing that he taught you guys? Quote unquote boyish thing, because
right. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, but you know, like, oh, you wanted a son. That's why we're having to be doing this.
This is so weird, and I know he would not even remember this, but he made me, so my dad and I are left-handed, and my sister is right-handed. But I'm pretty ambidextrous, but I was playing softball, and I was very, very good at softball. My sister and I both were, and that's honestly something I kind of wish I would have stuck with, but he would drive us maybe like 45 minutes away from our hometown to batting cages. So I think it's very local. It's a place called Celebration Station. So just imagine a like gaming center, like a fun center with like go-karts, batting cages, laser tag, like all of the arcade games, and they give like tokens and stuff. So imagine a place like that, like an adult Chuck E. Cheese, I guess, or an older kid Chuck E. Cheese. He drove us maybe like 45 minutes from our hometown. to go to batting cages, and he would not let us go play games. He's like, no, we need to work on batting. So I would say that was very, very just kind of that kind of strict, like, we're doing this. And this was outside of softball practice in general. And also one day we were together, I guess it was a softball tournament or something going on, and he had me learn how to catch and throw with opposite hands. He's like, just in case something happens. I'm just like, why would anything happen? And if it did, why am I still worried about softball? But that is just, I don't know, he's a crazy man. So I would say perhaps probably one of like the boyish kind of like, this is going to take you somewhere. And I think that's kind of where I feel like I wish I would have stuck with it a little more.
Why did you let it go?
So in high school, I had played softball from 7 to I think I played softball. It started at like 6. But in high school, I went out for the team, and I kind of just was like, oh, I got this in the bag. Like I had been practicing for years. Like I was very, very good. Like very powerful hitter, a great infielder, really fast, like just able to run the bases. But I had a really bad attitude. And you would never know that now. Maybe you would. But I just later on, knowing who I am now, and I also work in hospice, depression in children, especially girls, teenage girls, and especially teenage Black girls, looks much different than it does in adults and their white counterparts, and in boys. It just looks completely different. So I am fully aware now that my bad attitude was a direct reflection of being depressed, of being just unable to talk about things, unable to understand things. So I remember going out for softball and understanding, like, I'm really good at this. And the coach was literally like, yeah, you're good, but what good is that going to do me if I can't coach you? And it was definitely a lesson I learned pretty spot on immediately when I realized I didn't make the team. And I just never was in the mood to go out for the team again. But I also, like I said, I played a lot of sports. So soccer, and then volleyball, that was my off-season sport between soccer. So that's something I learned how to do in high school. But I understood that, like, I wish I would have had a different attitude, but I know now that that was something that I didn't know I didn't know was out of control for me. So I had to learn, and that's why I say you may not know now that I, would have had, like, I grew up with a bad attitude, because I just really had to learn, like, my triggers and what it was that was making me upset, and really figuring out, like, just how to control that, and not getting worked up and overwhelmed by certain things that I didn't have control over.
Why do you feel like you were suffering with depression during that time? And how long do you think you had been suffering with it or have been?
So, like I said, I work in hospice. So, knowing the stages of grief and loss and what that looks like in children and what that looks like is just in anyone. But so at 5, children understand the concept of loss and understand the concept of this person isn't here. So children who lose somebody before then can't really grasp that concept and may have a much easier time understanding that someone is, so once they've grown up, it's like, okay, like, I lost this person, but it's not going to be as detrimental. But at 7, I had a full understanding that this person is gone. This person is not coming back. So growing up, that is a huge thing. And also, it's not that somebody's gone and not coming back, but it's like, this person would have been doing this. So my mom would have been doing my hair. My mom would have been talking about this. My mom would have gave me these, tips and tricks and guidelines to living my life as a young woman. And that's not something that I received. So, and just certain aspects, not being able to articulate how I'm feeling. And I will never forget this. One of my favorite high school teachers, I think it was my first day in her class. I think I got transferred in late. And she asked me a question in front of the whole class, like a literature question. It was my English teacher. And I don't remember what I said, but I remember just being nasty and responding just in a way that was just like, it was so unnecessary. And even I remember right after I said it feeling like, why did I say that? Like, why was that my reaction? And her reaction to me was so calm, and she was so understanding. And I believe she was probably like 23 at the time. It was her first year teaching high school students. And immediately, given her response, I found that I was much more, like, I could let my guard down. And so vividly remembering that particular scenario or that instance, and also just thinking about kind of the confrontations I was getting in school and just not being able to be heard and feeling really like lost and confused about a lot of stuff, and just not feeling like I could connect with much of anyone. I recognize that now as like just confusion and just depression, and it's not looking like lack of sleep, lack of eating. It is literally, I don't know what to say, so this is coming out as anger. And if you know anything about, like, anger is a secondary emotion, that is my true belief. So it's coming from sadness, it's coming from frustration, like not knowing how to express those initial feelings will manifest itself into anger. And being 14 years old and not knowing how to say I am sad, or this doesn't make me feel good, or just not being able to articulate certain things, that just, it boils into frustration. And now I am like, upset.
I know you said you start to really realize it as you were in high school, but when do you feel like you kind of turned a corner in your behavior?
I would say senior year of high school. And I feel like I've just missed so many opportunities. And I'm not necessarily regretful of anything, because that's just where I'm supposed to be. But I understand that so I played soccer from the time I was 5 to I was 18. And it was something I was good at. And I played my entire high school career, except when my dad made me stop because I had bad grades. But so we got a new soccer coach in 2007, and it was like a huge change because I had been playing soccer for the same coach for so long. She was amazing. I learned so much from her. And then all of a sudden we had this new soccer coach. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, our team's going to suck. Like, there's a huge change, a huge shift. And I'm like, oh, it's my senior year. Like, this is my captain year. Like, what's up? And I remember, and I really enjoyed my soccer coach. Like, he was new. We had to teach him a lot, but he passed me up for captain. And he gave captain position to a sophomore. And I remember thinking like, that is not how we do things on this team. But I had to recognize like, it was his team. Like, he's doing things new. And if he doesn't think I'm captain material, then that's something that's going on with me. And I remember thinking like, you got to get your shit together. Like, people are recognizing that like, you are not as much of a team player as you think you are. You are not as much of a leader as you think you are. Like, you need to put some, parameters in place to make sure that you are performing to your best of ability, to the best of your ability.
What are 3 words you would use to describe yourself?
Energetic, magnetic, and dependable.
Ooh, why magnetic?
And it's something I'm constantly working on, but I find that people are instantly drawn to me. And it's a very, I have like a very infectious spirit. I have always been told that, even from when I was very, very little. Um, I make friends very easily. Never met a stranger, and if I do, it's probably because I'm being weird. um, yeah, I find that like people always tell me I can go anywhere and I will, I can make friends. And it's so funny because my dad is not like a super, super friendly person, but he knows a lot of people. Um, so I told you he's a retired police officer. And so he was a school resource officer. So during the school year, he was working in the schools, making sure students are safe and everything. And so everywhere we would go, we were going to dinner, a family dinner, movies, anything like that. We always ran into his students. I think in 1998, 99, we took a family trip to the Grand Canyon. We were sitting, I think we were at the Petrified Forest or something, and we were like taking family pictures, and somebody is literally like, Officer Harris, Officer Harris. And my dad is just like so embarrassed. He's like, I literally cannot go anywhere without somebody knowing me. And we were, thousands of miles from our home. And I have inherited that, that certain trait from my dad. Like, I'm always going to know somebody. And it's like, I never forget a name. I never forget a face. And I feel like that really increases my magnetism. I make people feel comfortable.
What is something that you've learned about yourself in the last 365 days?
Whew. Where do we start? I have learned, this time last year, oh my gosh, oh my goodness. I'm just really trying to I want to give you a really good answer. So a year ago, I did not know, I have social anxiety. So for the last 2 or 3 years, I have worked my ass off to figure out what I want to do with my life. So I've been working a lot of jobs, making ends meet, doing what I got to do to, get stuff taken care of. So work has been a huge top priority in the last, 3 years. And so every time somebody would want to go do something, go hang out, I literally was always trying to save money. So that was not something that I was necessarily interested in doing. And then also, if we were out past 10, I was like, hey, I got to go to work in the morning. I got to go. There was in my mind, I was always worried about going to work. I've got to go to work because I was working a 40-hour a week job, Monday through Friday. But I was also working about 20, 25 hours a weekend job. And sometimes I would leave the weekday job, I would leave at 5 or 4:30 and go to my weekend job during the week to get more hours, which in turn would get me more money. So I was working nonstop. I think in 2019, I might have had maybe 4 or 5 days off, on purpose, other than holidays. I was just constantly working. So I say that to say, I didn't know how to be social. I didn't know, I didn't have the money to spend to be social. And I didn't have the free time to utilize freely. I know but I say that because once I got a job, and I'm so glad I worked my ass off because I was afforded the opportunity for a job that gave me free time, disposable income, and just autonomy to do what I wish. And so I'm very grateful that I did what I had to do. But now that I have all of these, this excess, I had to really figure out what it means to be me again, for me to relax and say, like, you can go have fun. Because I was still like, I would be like, oh, I don't have anything to do tomorrow. And I was like, hey, I want to go home and go to sleep. And it's like, yeah, you can. And that's, absolutely, you're right. But I just stopped having fun. I feel like I was not allowed to have fun. And now I'm trying to figure out what that looks like for me.
What is one of your favorite topics to talk about?
Sex.
What?
I'm serious. I
don't believe you. I just didn't expect it.
Oh, yeah.
Expand.
No, I love talking about sex. I like talking about fertility. I really love. So, and that's like sex and all of its like, fun and nastiness, but also the idea of, women having children, being able to have children, getting pregnant. Like, I love talking about that. I love talking about Black people. Yeah.
Okay, so what is specifically, when did you realize I love talking about sex and fertility, that whole tie-in? Like, when is it like your fascination with being like, what, I think this is my top topic?
So I'm a late bloomer. I did not, my first time having sex, what I consider sex, because, sometimes that looks different for other people. My first time being, having intercourse was with, I was 21 years old and he was a virgin. So we were both virgins, figuring it out, very confused. But I remember even way before then, I was always comfortable. I was always comfortable. And I don't know if you or whoever's listening subscribes to, astrology and all of that, but my dad is a Scorpio, and also a widower. So he was dating a lot. I will never forget the first time I saw a receipt on the ground in the car, and I picked it up and read it, and it said condoms. I was 8 years old, and I saved the receipt. I planned on having a talk with him, sitting him down and saying, what is this? What are you doing? This is unacceptable. And I remember thinking, I gave myself some time, and I was like, don't say anything. He needs this. I was so young and understanding the concept of I was very upset with him for having sex because I saw this receipt and it had condoms on it. But I remember rationalizing with myself and saying this is none of your business. And so I have always just had this understanding of sex is normal. Sex is very natural. And, my dad did not give me the sex talk. He had my godmother do it. But my dad has never been he's never pretended to be a saint or to not have sex or to, he's like, I'm going on a date. And we all knew what that meant. So definitely huge Scorpio energy from him. But I think that really, and my mom was a Virgo. So I feel like that really set the tone for who my sister and I are. So, yeah, I think I realized early on, yeah, sex, this is natural. But then once I lost my virginity, it was just okay. And I honestly, the term losing someone's virginity is so antiquated to me. It's we can get into that later, but I will say that I just became I'm very open-minded. I always have been. So if I was sitting around with a group of older girls and they were talking about sex, I got very I learned a lot. I soaked everything up, and that gave me and that's also kudos to having an older sister, but that also gave me the feeling and understanding of yeah, this is okay. And also, I actually read my sister's diary. Oh, I used to be a little shit. I read her diary, and it said, and it was in there, it was about her losing her virginity. And I remember telling my best friend, my best friend's older sister is my sister's best friend at the time. So she's like, so when my best friend told her sister, everyone knew. And so when my sister knew that I knew, she got very upset with me. And I was a learning lesson for me also, kind of like, you shouldn't have done that. But I remember thinking like, yeah, people have sex. Like, congratulations to my sister. She lost her virginity. But
So
yeah.
you said at 8 years old, you found that receipt and you knew. So 8 is a young age. I maybe in my opinion that like to know or understand the concept of sex. So when were you first aware of what sex was and how did you become aware of it?
I don't know. I really don't because I remember I had to have been like, you know how people, and I don't know, I feel like kids nowadays, especially with like TikTok and Instagram, all of that, you see videos of like kids. There's one video specifically I'm thinking of where a kid is talking about his parents like having sex. And he's like, what are they doing? I remember like walking into my parents' room because I couldn't sleep and they were having sex. And I had been like 5 or 6 at the time. And I didn't know what was going on, but I knew they were having sex. I don't know. I wish that like I had a better answer, but like, I don't know.
Did you ever tell them you saw them?
No, I don't know. I don't think so. And I don't think it was out of shame or anything, or maybe it was.
So when did you get this talk from your godmother?
I think it was 10.
And
I already know. Like,
I was about to say she a little late.
But the thing is, I was not even close to having sex at all. My first kiss was at 17. I just knew what sex was. I wasn't like, yeah, like, and even me saying that, I feel like, I don't know. Honestly, like, it's so interesting that I'm thinking about all of this stuff because at 8, or maybe I was 9 when I saw the receipt, but I remember thinking like, he is having sex. He is not supposed to be having sex. He is not supposed to have a girlfriend. This is very interesting. Thank you for posting these questions.
I mean, I'm diving into it because I mean, like, obviously when I do these, like, I obviously keep, like, I try to, like, keep myself very, like, not mute, but, like, neutral, open, right? Because, like, we all have different, like, experiences and stuff like that. And the big thing about my platform or what I want this platform to be is a space for us to be open and be. But it curiouses me because it's, like, I don't think that's a word. I don't think curiouses me is a word, but
it's okay.
We're gonna we're just let it rock, right? Curious is me. Because that, you know, I don't think any thoughts or any ideas come out of nowhere. Like, I can only think to my own experience as a child when it comes to like sex, sexuality and stuff like that. Like there are moments that open that up, whether it was like pornography, whether it was other children. So at 8, for you to have that, or 9 to have that full idea, it had to come from somewhere of like that understanding.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
So my parents, I have a very vivid memory, and I would say I was probably like 4 or 5. I remember them making out in the kitchen, and me standing on their feet in between their legs while they're making out. Like, I remember that so vividly. It's one of my favorite memories of my parents together because it's literally like they are so enamored with each other and that I am just in the way, but they do not care. It's like very sweet to me because I feel like they did not shy away from the idea of like of being like lovey-dovey with each other in front of their children. And even now bringing this up, I remember my mother being very like keep in mind I'm very, very young, but I remember like her having very like especially for, you know, the 90s, like sexy lingerie. Like, and she never wore a bra to bed. Like, there's just certain little things I remember about her. And definitely, now that I'm thinking about it, just like a sexual aura. And I've been told that I have that as well. So it's so interesting. I don't think that my parents were like shy about like their intimacy.
So you went to a HBCU.
Mm-hmm.
What was life like at? Yes, please tell me your HBCU and what life was like at the HBCU.
Okay. So I attended Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. I got there in the fall of 2008. My parents actually went to FAMU as well. And FAMU is in Tallahassee, Florida. It's on the highest of Seven Hills. And I mean, it was amazing. So like I mentioned before, I played soccer, softball, volleyball. So around a lot of white girls. And when I look back on these pictures, I had the best tan. I had literally just so in shape. I looked so good. But I was around so many white women, white girls, that like I was always the biggest person on the team, but also the fastest person on the team. Like, well, please, let's just keep that in mind. But like, I played left forward. And so one, because I was fast, but two, because I was very like aggressive, and I had the like, just the physical mass to like charge people. So the idea of like being the biggest person on the team stuck with me for a really long time. And then to get to an HBCU and no one gives a fuck. No one is like, probably one of the first time a peer called me beautiful was not until I stepped up to a HBCU. It was just, imagine going somewhere that felt like home and you didn't know anybody, but you knew everybody. And that may sound a little confusing, so I'm going to break it down. But like, there are so many different types of Black people. So going to a school that my parents walked the campus of, literally my great aunt even went to FAMU, but going to this school and saying like, I'm here, like I'm supposed to be here, and people feeling the same way, people feeling like all different shades of Black, all different body types, all different hair types, all different, just interests and organizations that really catered to, whomever you decided to be. That was so important to me.
So I'm going to wrap this up with this question.
Okay.
If you had the attention of the entire world, what would you say?
What would I say? I would say, I don't know. I really don't.
You can think about it. Take a minute.
Okay. Stop killing Black people. I think, I don't know if they listen to me, but the problem with like violence toward Black men and women is not only in America, but it's very heavy here because also it's localized. So if I had the attention of the world, I think that's a problem everywhere, especially like darker skin, like, like, I don't know, I want to choose my words carefully, and not even to be politically correct, but just to make sure that like I'm very concise and clear about what I'm saying. But just darker skin tones have just across all areas of this world have a much more difficult time with almost everything. So but I think just in America, it is, oh my gosh, we just have so much going on. And I think that people, I get so sad. I get so emotional thinking, like, I get so worked up when I see all of this stuff. And it is trauma porn. It is so bad. But I just sit and think, I'm like, why does the world hate Black people? And it's like, I don't know. And I fear that I will be raising children in the next 10 to 15 years, and they're asking me that question, and I don't know what to say.
I had to cut out about 15 minutes of this interview, and to cut out that 15 minutes was hard because just listening to Lanise talk from beginning to end, I was just so like enamored. I think because I don't know, you just feel her openness, her honesty, and you feel the layers of who she is and what she's saying. I was having a little bit of a hard time naming this episode, but I thought about, what is like the feeling and the takeaway I get from speaking with her, and it's just like she's blooming. She's like a flower with like layers, and it's blooming and opening up. So I was like, this may be tacky, but I love it. Like, I love flowers, so that's how I got the title. Now, go and follow Lanise. Her Instagram handle is soulflowerqueen, SOULFLWERQUEN. I almost spelled flower wrong, but I didn't. Also, she has a podcast, Midnight Mantra. Go follow her. Go follow her podcast. Go check her out. It's amazing. If you love this interview, there's many, many other interviews with other amazing, inimitable, one-of-a-kind Black women that you should go listen to. Also, this is coming on Thursday. On Friday, Lanise is going to take over my Instagram. So if you want to see her in action, see her day, see her take over the IBW Instagram, go follow the IBW on IG. Also, I'll be posting up the video version of this interview so you can watch us have the conversation. My hair was not the best, but that's okay. I'm still of God. And as always, you can email me at info@theibw.com. Other than that, yeah, have a great week. Check us out. Always comment, rate, review, subscribe, share. That's how we get the word out about the podcast. So appreciate you. Bye.